What is up, guys? Brian Phobos here. Today we have a ton to talk about. We're going to talk about FPGAs. We're going to talk about GPU mining. We're going to talk about proof of brain mining or the blogging platforms like Steemit. And so let's get into this. So back on October 31st of 2018, Halloween, I made a video saying super cheap GPU rig should you buy? And I said no, because the GPU miners are going to continue to get pressed out in many months to come. And that turned out to be true. That video was well received. Also, a couple other things that I said in that video. Friends, do not let friends buy ASICs. Don't ever buy ASICs. You're not going to get them soon enough. And, you know, unless you're in China and you're pulling those things right off the assembly line and putting them into service, you're not going to get them cheap enough. Don't buy ASICs. And then the other thing that has popped up here more recently is the FPGAs. Now, what are FPGAs? They're field programmable gate arrays. And it's essentially usually a test bed for if someone's going to design a circuit and they're going to make an ASIC, an application-specific integrated circuit. So the cool thing with these is they're more flexible, but the problem is either you have to get your hands on the, a new bitstream, or you have to be able to program it yourself. So unless, this is my opinion, unless you know somebody who can program these bitstreams, or you yourself can program these bitstreams, you're always going to have a hard time competing, especially in an environment like now in a bear market. Profitability is thin. And in bear markets, profitability will always work its way to zero. So some of the other, let's say, YouTubers out there that focus on mining, the technicals, he does a real good job. And he actually did some videos on FPGAs, and he kind of brought this up. I did see this video, and he did a cool job on that, of basically saying that it's hard to get a hold of the bitstreams and some of his issues with GPU mining. On this video, he says, selling off 80% of my GPU. And that was a week ago. And I mean, if we go back again, I was warning people, don't try to buy cheap GPU rigs even back in October, even with the winter coming along, all that stuff. Now, what's going to happen is people in the United States are going to say, well, it's kind of heating my house. And so if I'm a little bit unprofitable, I'm going to keep running this and it's heating my house. They're going to justify it that way. When it gets hot and it's still not profitable, they're probably going to throw in the towel. And at that point, their GPUs are going to be worth about half of what they paid for them, maybe even less. And if you shut your rigs off, you've got an issue because, okay, it's not making money, but it's actually losing money sitting there because you have a depreciating asset with the GPUs. But if you're going to do any mining, you need to have 4 cents a kilowatt hour power or lower. And if you're going to scale up, don't try to scale up with ASICs. Don't try to scale up with FPGAs. Your best bet is to scale up with GPUs. And I'm going to tell you guys a little bit later what I think the best time to buy GPUs potentially is going to be. But you have to time the GPU market just like you would time the cryptocurrency market. So since your time is worth a lot of money, then you might want to not even do any of it and just invest in cryptocurrencies. Whether that be like investing a certain amount each week or buying in and set it and forget it, that kind of thing. Or you could go with some of these other mechanisms I'm going to talk about as far as like proof of brain and what I think about those. So let's get further into this. Now, BitTrippin, they came out with a video August 16th of 2018. So it's been a while, but they unveiled their 2,500 GPU mining farm. I mean, absolutely beast. And I love mining, guys. I think it's super cool. And I think that these channels like BitTrippin, the Technicals, and VossCoin, those are the good guys, man. They're out there, setting this stuff up. And I think it's cool. And the biggest my GPU farm got was 24 GPUs. And the writing was on the wall. And this was back in 2013, 2014. And the writing was on the wall when that bubble popped, and it was very, very tough, and there were certain things that I learned from that experience, and that is why I didn't end up with a large GPU farm this time around. Now, I wouldn't completely rule it out for like setting up a big GPU farm for the upcoming bull run that'll happen whenever, if it's going to be at the end of 2019 or 2020 or 2021, whenever this next one is. I'm not ruling it out that I wouldn't want to at least consult on mining or get involved in mining a little more hands-on again, because I do like mining. It is cool. I like seeing the coins come into my wallet. It's a lot of fun, but at the same time, you got to be profitable and you got to play it smart. So the GPUs are kind of like you're investing in a depreciating asset, and you've got to time it right, or you're not going to get in and out at the right time. And a lot of these miners have unfortunately been crushed, and I feel for them because I went through it myself. It's tough, and it's tough to know, like, do I hold on? Do I sell these now? You know, all that. So let's go further into it. Now, Mr. Christoph, it's another example. He mainly has ASICs, and, another good guy. He's out there making great videos and stuff, and I feel for him. Bitcoin mining is tough, and, all cryptocurrency mining is tough, and it's tough to kind of like last through these. It's just a really cyclical nature to this, and hopefully these guys can survive and make it out on the other end. But like the bits be tripping. Okay, like I had a blast from the past today, and maybe you guys were around at this time, but so I was mining before this. I started mining around like September of 2013 or so, and I remember when the Bits Be Trippin' channel came out, and this is kind of a throwback if you guys remember this.
Set me up and let me get mine. Making money when I sleep, that's a good night. I wake up in the morning, I'm selling, flipping 100%. They need all of my attention.
Making money in my sleep, that's a good night. Like, I love that song, and I was super pumped up. Hopefully I didn't blow you guys' ears out on that. I don't know how loud it was for you guys, but yeah, like Bits Be Trippin' was awesome, and it's cool to see they're still around. And man, I hope they're going to be okay. 2,500 GPUs. And somebody said that they're up around the Chicago area and that they have like 10 to 12 cents kilowatt hour power. And, it's not good. Not good. Like I said, guys, 4 cents or lower. And some people commented on this last video. And it was a knowledgeable miner, and he was like, I've got 6 cents a kilowatt hour power, yada, yada, yada. And I hope the best for him, but the prices actually got lower from when I made this video. And again, you don't want to be running a rig that's making like, $10 a month or something like that. It's not obviously worth it. And so you got to give yourself that buffer. And again, I just cannot emphasize it enough. 4 cents a kilowatt hour power or lower, or don't do it. Just buy the coins. If you're wanting to invest, don't invest the money into a depreciating asset like a GPU. But if you are going to mine, GPUs are your best route. And this whole conversation of like, oh, GPU mining's dead or that kind of thing, that whole conversation went on in 2014, 2015. The people's mining will always take place on GPUs. And obviously we've seen stuff like Monero that have forked away, to prevent ASICs from taking over the network and stuff like that. So the people's mining will always be done on GPUs. They're always, but in the same token, the stuff has changed. There's different algorithms, different types of cards. Like back in 2013, 2014, you really couldn't get very good hash rates like on NVIDIA cards. And then this time around, it was like, for like Equihash and stuff like that, it was like a lot of people gravitated towards NVIDIA. So things change, but I'll tell you who makes the most out of mining, and it would be someone like this Claymore guy. So I guess his GitHub is Nanopool. But the Claymore miners, and I was mining with the Claymore miners back in 2014 when Monero came out. And, he takes a percentage out of everything that's mined, essentially, and it made a lot of sense because he had the best. It was a closed source GPU miner, and it was well worth mining with that miner. And, he's came out with other ones over time for Zcash and Ethereum and stuff like that. So whoever this is, if it's a person or it's a group, I would not be surprised if Claymore is not a billionaire. I mean, we're talking like 4+ years of taking like a percentage out of like all these different ones. And you got to understand, it wasn't just Monero, it was Bytecoin and Bullberry and all these other Duck Note and all these kind of things that, you know, have either done name changes or kind of faded into obscurity and stuff like that. But probably a billionaire. That's who makes money with mining. You can make money with mining if you scale up and stuff like that, but you've got to be nimble. You really got to be on top of your game. And it just looks like it's going to continue to be cyclical like it was back in the 2013, 2014 boom and bust. And then 2015, it was bad. It was worse than it is now, guys. That's part of my just personal experience, because obviously I did have GPUs, so it felt worse for me for sure. So let's go into something that you could do where you can make a little bit of money off of mining and not have to spend all the money on hardware and stuff. And this is something I spool up these like free cloud servers every so often, and I pretty much like used all my credit cards as far as, because you have to like, you know, sign up for the trial and stuff, and it's not going to charge your credit card. It'll tell you like when you've used up your free credit or something. But I mean, just spool up like a Microsoft Azure account, and you get, you know, $200 of free credit or whatever, and, you know, mine, and, you know, if you get one Monero or something out of it, hey, that's a free Monero that you have. Tuck that thing away, and when it's worth 1,000 or something, whatever. You got to be nimble like this, guys. And some people say, oh, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Well, I mean, I guess it wasn't worth it when I was mining Monero for 25 cents. You know, it's just the way you got to approach things. It's not gonna feel like it's worth it. It's not gonna seem like it. And then, you know, you got to be doing the stuff when it's not worth it or doesn't seem to be worth it, or you got to be putting money into it when it's not worth it. And it's a risk. Everything's a risk, guys. So here's another one, Oracle Cloud, $300 free credit. And you could do this on 5 or 6 like free cloud trial. And then let's say you end up with, let's say, a stack of, you know, $200-$300 worth of crypto after you like mine on all these different free cloud trials. And then you could sit there and like, you know, let's say ask a parent or ask someone else like, hey, can we like set these up and you know, split the coins or something like that. So you know, that is one way that you can do it, and you're not out the hardware, and you're going to learn something. And as far as like how-tos, how to do that, I mean, just look up on YouTube. Just type, I'm not going to go through all of it, and just say like how to mine Monero on Windows Azure or something like that, and then you'll see something, you'll be able to figure it out. You know, so I'm not going to go individually into that. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about Steam. And obviously, like, I've been on Steam since July of 2016, so I have a long history there. And if you have been following my videos for a while, basically I had powered up. The writing was on the wall, like kind of in the summer and the fall, and I basically powered down a lot of my account and left like 1,000 or 2,000 Steam power, and then basically it fell further, and when it fell to like 80 cents, I bought more, and then it fell further, and then I bought another amount, and you know, all that ended up being worth around 10,000 Steam power, you know, and so basically my cost basis is around 60 cents, and I've continued to, you know, post stuff and everything there and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of people ask me, well, like, is it worth it? Does it make sense? Well, the problem is right now with Steam worth around like 37 cents or so, even with this amount of power, which is probably like the 1,500th the biggest account on Steam, which sounds like I'm pretty far down there, but as far as like a global thing, or that there's like over 1 million accounts, that seems to be, you know, like, well, you've got some power, you're like a dolphin, all this kind of stuff. But my upvote's only worth around like 25 cents if I'm like fully, you know, my voting power would be up at 100, which it never is. So it's 25 cents, and then it's just like, well, if you even do the math of like, well, if you just voted for yourself, like, and only yourself, and you just hogged your own vote, Could you make it back, or could you make your investment back? How long would it take you and everything? And it would essentially take years to really kind of get it back if I just kind of cut everybody off and wasn't upvoting anybody. So, you know, that's it, it's just not like a good situation. There's so many issues with Steam right now. In this video, I'm not going to go into everything. I'm going to point out a few things. But there's so many issues with Steam right now. I just wouldn't recommend people investing in it. And I mean, guys, that's to my detriment that I'm telling you that and steering you clear of this, because I could sit here and be shilling it and saying, yeah, invest in Steam so I can get my money out. But I've actually started a power down cycle a couple days ago because there was just so many things stacking up. And for a while I was like, I don't have that big of an investment in it. I'm just going to let it ride. But the more I just think about it and stuff, the thing is not Steam will come back. Like, I'm sure Steam will probably be worth $1 or $2 or $3 or $4 or something at some point. But it's more of an opportunity cost loss. Like, I think that I'm better off kind of heading and gravitating towards high ground. And what I mean by that is getting into stuff that's, more in the top 20. Whether it be Monero or Tron or Stellar or Litecoin or something that just, EOS, obviously, whatever. Pick out your favorite project. I'm gonna end up better off there than spending so much time and getting all tangled up in the drama of Steam by just buying into these higher up. That's my feeling on it. Now I'm gonna go into a little bit more of like why that is here. So, as you know, Steam is kind of like EOS in the fact that it's delegated proof of stake. So we have BitShares, then there was Steam, and then EOS, and then there's other delegated proof of stake chains, for instance, like Tron. And, the witnesses essentially are the miners or the block producers for Steam, and they're voting in. There's no vote decay or anything like that. So a lot of times that they get there, they sort of they stick there just indefinitely, whether they're doing anything or not. And I look at this kind of stuff of like who's voting, is this witness sort of engaging in the community? Are they really doing anything? Are they developing like another mobile app or something of how to post to Steam, or what are they doing? And a lot of these witnesses, A, they're not doing anything, and then B, they're not even engaging with the community and really even upvoting anybody else or anything. They're essentially just stacking these coins up at an unbelievable rate. And it seems, it's kind of funny. So I brought this up. It looks like it did refresh. I looked at Luke Stokes' account, and, it was pretty high in the voting power. Now it does look like he did, do some votes here, but, he again, like 96% power. A lot of times you'll be hard pressed to see my power like over about 70 or 80%. Like, I vote a lot of people, and I have people on auto voters. So there's that. But let's say if you go to like Roland P, and he's done some stuff like to do like Steam Fest. That's kind of been his main claim to fame on this chain. But he's pretty much a witness on like all these chains like BitShares and Scorum and all these kind of different ones. And I mean, this dude's got some fat stacks for sure. And, his voting power is at 99.92. And then you see like all these rewards coming in, 0.22 Steam power, 0.22 Steam power, just go down the list. And it's just like, it just stacks up. And, great guys. That's great for you guys, but you're not, a lot of times when you see, okay, here's another witness, P Funk, 100% voting power, and he'd done some voting, here you see a curation reward and stuff, but a lot of times these guys don't even set up like an auto voter for some of the content creators that are out there doing anything, and maybe they feel like the best way to protect their investment is that they have solidified their existence, as a top witness. Now, P-Funk has fallen out of the top 20, but Roland P and Luke Stokes are top 20 witnesses, and these coins just stack up, and maybe they feel like the best thing to hold their investment is to not vote for anybody, because if they vote for somebody, they might sell that Steam. So it's just, there's about 50 or 60 people who are just like draining Steam. And then there's countless issues with Steam Incorporated and the leadership there. I mean, it's too much even to list. So it is frustrating. It's frustrating for like different investors, different content creators who thought that it would, be a good platform to be on and stuff like that. And there's been a lot that we've learned from Steam, but and I'm going to do a more in-depth video, later on a lot of the issues and kind of like see things that I see. But like, if you want to go to this site, it's steamd.com and then at the username. So just take out the out of it, and then you can kind of see a different look of the blockchain and kind of see like a more in-depth look of like kind of what's going on and stuff. Here's Yaba P. Matt, and he's part of the Steam Monsters whole thing and stuff like that. And so his voting power is at 96%, but you just see the rewards just stacking up. And essentially it's like, well, okay, well, why don't you become a witness and all this kind of stuff. And there's really essentially no way that you're going to like, even if you have the technical ability and stuff like that, you're not going to climb up in that spot. It's just basically like a good old boys club. And there's just a bunch of ass kissers, and it's just, it's not anything. There's not an opportunity there, guys. I can just pretty much tell you that. Now, there are some good witnesses and stuff, but here's just another example. The Real Wolf, voting power 96%. It's just, I just see it over and over again, and it's not like, well, I'm just picking these guys out. We will say, okay, Tim Cliff, he's at 82% voting power. And none of these guys I'm not voting for any of these guys as witnesses, including Tim. Like, it's not just the voting power, it's a lot of things. But really, at the end of the day, guys, it's just a lot of drama, and it's not even honestly like worth my time to even really like get engaged with it. But as far as like someone who's a content creator and kind of making recommendations of what I think that you guys should do to like earn more crypto and stuff like that, I'm just telling you that I just don't feel like it's a good place to put your money. You're better off seeking higher ground, rather than be in that system. Because what can happen on Steam is that not only are you investing in it, and you've already like invested time into getting that money that you're investing in it, then on top of that, it ends up being a double whammy, because then you'll invest your time in trying to make that power work for you. So it's almost like investing money in and then like employing yourself into like doing something with that power. And there are some passive ways to earn, like curation and stuff, which most of these guys clearly aren't really caring about the curation of it, because they don't hardly vote for anybody. So it's just, clearly it's in this system, it's actually more advantageous to just sort of like hog your power, and not really kind of like engage in the community from all these like brilliant examples, up here that I showed you. So, and will Steam still be around? Like people say, is Steam sustainable? Yes, it'll still continue. It's still going to exist, even if 15 or 20 of these circle jerkers are still up there. I mean, they're going to jerk it down to 5 cents a Steam maybe or something, but it isn't. There's still going to be someone who's going to like take the bait, so to speak, that are going to be like, well, if I buy up a bunch, then I'll be more powerful in this system, and then if I can sell at a higher price, or I can generate enough out of it and like essentially extract enough value out of the system, then I can get out with a profit. There's always going to be that person that's going to take that chance. I mean, I could say, yeah, I took that chance. I decided to put some more power in, and have been involved in it since 2016. And I'm not totally divesting from it. I'm probably going to power down to where I have like 1,000 or 2,000 Steam power. But the rest of that power, I'm just going to gravitate to higher ground, EOS, Tron, Monero, Litecoin, whatever. I mean, I would rather have Dogecoin or Digibyte any day of the week than I would have Steam. So let's talk about some of this other stuff as well. So, okay, WellShares. And WellShares was an improvement upon Steam as far as kind of some of the rules that they implemented and some of the kind of interface stuff that they did. So I think it was a good idea and everything. But again, we're seeing some of the kind of the same issues kind of present themselves on Steam. And with both of them, they didn't kind of establish, Steam in particular, you can't really fault WellShares as much because it's newer. But Steam never implemented additional revenue sources, through advertisements and stuff like that. And then the leadership at Steam Incorporated is just so atrociously bad that one of the big things that destroyed Steam is that everything on the trending page is all stake weighted. So, it's all stake weight. So basically, what happened is to essentially get your post up here on trending, it has nothing to do with good content or anything like that. It's just that people have paid these bid bots, like this Smart Steam, the Rising, Appreciator, Build a Well, Up Me Well, Up My Vote, all that's just bought, votes. So the trending page is just a fabrication, but it sort of incentivized people to just basically use these upvote bots, and then it wouldn't really organic or anything. And all Steam Incorporated had to do is just continue to keep changing the algorithm of how the trending page would be displayed. You could take, for instance, it would be partially stake weight, partially reputation, partially the amount of accounts that upvoted you that have at least 100 Steam power. How many views did it get? You kind of come up with an algorithm there that'll actually display content that was actually engaging. How many comments would be another another attribute of something that you would display up here. And so you'd take a combination of all that stuff, and you wouldn't tell anybody. Now, it would eventually be on the GitHub, and people would kind of figure out a way to a little bit game it, but if you always kind of kept it a little bit of a mystery or something that you couldn't easily game, then the trending and the hot page, it wouldn't have been so advantageous to just buy these bid bots. And so therefore, the people with the Steam power there would be no reason to kind of invest in the bid bots, because the content creators wouldn't be paying into the bid bots, if that makes sense. So Steam Incorporated just kind of made their own kind of problem there, and just never did anything with this. So with WellShares, some of the kind of issues I see, there's no additional revenue, whether it be advertising. I came up with a kind of a proposal for both Steam and whatever you could implement it in WellShares, but that there would be an internal ad revenue system where, let's say if I clicked on this, that let's say I wanted to advertise, and let's say I was talking about cryptocurrency too, so this is in the Bitcoin category, that I could pay and have a little advertisement that would either be somewhere in the middle of it and would say advertisement or sponsored, and it would promote my blog within there, or it would be over here in some of these blank spaces. And that would be the internal system to sort of promote my blog and try to get more followers. And then there would be an external ad revenue system where there would be an ad revenue share of different advertisements. And even if you added just Google AdSense, which Steam Incorporated just recently added Google AdSense for people who aren't logged in, but there's no ad revenue sharing or anything on that. But then also the ultimate thing that you would get to is to have your own ad engine where advertisers were directly paying Steam. But even if you look at eBay, their mechanism, they have multiple income streams. They don't just have the seller fees. They also have advertisements up there, which could potentially take someone away from eBay. But they have multiple income sources and stuff like that. And, Steam, they never did that. And a lot of the stuff they pitched and stuff even over a year ago has just totally been empty promises, and they didn't essentially get much done. And they still have about 30% stake in Steam Power. So we'll kind of see what happens with that. But, essentially, it's not that it's not sustainable. It'll continue, but it's not going to thrive. It's not going to thrive like it could. And just people are just becoming more and more and more greedy, and then you just got these like witnesses at the top, like, oh, I'm here now, I'm a king. And so it's just people are one after another. It's not just me. It's not like me, like, oh, I'm capitulating, I'm just a complainer. That's what some of these guys will lead you to believe. But a lot of people are leaving. It's just, you know, it's people don't want to deal with it, and all this stuff that's been going on for like, you know, 2.5 years or whatever. So WellShares, kind of the same thing. I guess my thing is, like, if they implemented ads and kind of like were more proactive and more visible and stuff of what's going on there, I think I would have a better feeling about it. There are a lot of improvements on WellShares versus Steemit in my mind, or versus Steam. And Steam, you know, there's been a lot of development. There's been a lot of good things and stuff like that. But ultimately, it's just, you know, earn what you can earn out of there, and don't invest too much. And it kind of ends up being a game of don't get dumped on. And you might feel like, well, all crypto's like that. And to some respect, it's like true. Everything's about timing, whether it's real estate, stocks and options, cryptocurrencies. You know, you don't obviously want to be dumped on. So the other one that I'm going to mention is Wiku. You know, and it's a clone of Steam. And I've been replicating my posts across like all these. And what I'm going to basically do with Wiku, because I started like a power down cycle, I'm going to basically try to sell my Wiku to, you know, someone else who's like speculating. Like right now, there's no liquidity in the system, so there's no exchange to like send this to or anything. So I'm going to just try to get some of my Wiku and like trade it for like Steam, for instance, and then get my Steam out and then try to trade that for EOS or something like that. Now, the reason I'm going to get it out is because kind of I saw what happened with Golos, for instance. Golos was a Russian clone of Steam, and I had a little bit of power there, and my account was maybe worth like $150, like at its height or whatever. And I wish I would have got the money out, just headed for higher ground, because pretty much Golos is just death spiraled. Kind of a similar thing to what we see kind of going on with Steam. And now Steam has a lot more liquidity, and I don't think that Steam will get in as bad a situation as Golos did. But essentially, there's like hardly any liquidity in the Golos system, and it basically got taken over by these just kind of like a few handful of whales. So it's like the worst things that we've seen on Steam, but like tenfold worse kind of thing on Golos. And I've still got some power there and stuff, but you know, I wish I would have got a little bit of that out. So I'm going to try to get it out of Wiku. I'm going to try to, you know, extract some out of WellShares. And the way I think about it is, okay, if I can convert this, how many EOS? How many Litecoins? How many Monero? That's what I care about. This other stuff, if they don't have, now it'd be great, like if they implemented advertisements and drove more demand to these systems to where it was like even more sustainable, then it'd be like, okay, well, it makes a lot more sense to stay in these. The only reason I would say the people who are thriving out on Steam, for instance, are actually the witnesses, and then like a handful of other people who had enough power to sort of like level up above everybody else. But unless you have $100,000 or you have $250,000, you're not going to like level up above people. If you're going to spend like $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, you're not going to level up above like on Steam. And at the end of the day, would you be better off spending that money on whatever, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Monero, Tron, EOS? That's why you got to think of it, because if you're not at least keeping up with them or doing better than you would have just being in Bitcoin, then you're kind of like losing out, and you're doing like a lot of extra work for nothing. So that's my synopsis on that. And again, I think that you guys can earn like a little bit off of these free mining platforms, but at the end of the day, I just don't think the proof of brain stuff. Use it and level up, get higher up there, and just try to head for higher ground. But that's the video, guys. Follow me on all social media at Brian Phobos, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Steemit, and see you guys later.